What up, what up, what up? It's your boy Uriah, the host of the Hub of Fantasy Football, and I have my co host Foley.
It is Foley. I'm not wearing my crown today, but that doesn't mean I'm not the king.
And as modest as usual. So, I guess Foley, what we're going to get into today is a little bit of rankings. And before we start that, do we have a sponsor?
This is sponsored by the Louisiana State University football program, which proudly uses the name, image, and likeness of one Heisman winner, Jaden Daniels. And they will continue to do so despite giving his jersey number to some nobody quarterback.
The, hey, it's not retired. I don't have a problem with it.
I'm with you. You know what? No, I'm gonna make a stand right here as the reigning champion who won from the 4 spot. I drafted number 4. If I don't get the number 4 spot or better, then I'm going to disallow the Hub South Fantasy Football League and associated podcast from using my name, image, and likeness from now on.
Well, what do we call you?
It's up to you to figure out.
You'll always, I ain't worried about it. You're Foley. So, look, also, you can log on to Family Dollar Tree and use the code Hub of Fantasy Football for 10% off. Just holler that out.
Crap, that just reminded me I forgot to do my grocery store awards today.
So look, we're gonna get started. Last week we did quarterbacks, which was interesting, and this week we're going to go deep. Probably not as deep as we could, but we're going to go deep into running backs. So how do you want? How do you want to go?
I like the idea of starting from the bottom, and now we hear, hey, going up to the top again. I will say for our listeners, last week we did quarterbacks, and we all kind of knew. Uriah and I had not seen each other's rankings beforehand, but we definitely both knew that we had the same number 1 in Josh Allen. Most of our listeners probably did too. I think there's going to be a lot more suspense about it this time because it's hotly debated who is the RB1 this year. So I'll be excited to get to the end of this and find out if we agree or not.
So I think we'll start at 40. I think that's what we cut it out as. Of course, there's a lot more, a lot less, whatever. I will start with my number 40, Mr. Tyler Algier. I got Mr. Algier with 500 yards and 4 touchdowns, 400 yards receiving, 2 touchdowns. I don't have a whole lot of faith in Arizona, period. And I definitely don't know as far as, well, I guess right now it'd be the quarterback also, but the quarterback and slash running back don't have a clue what's going on.
Yeah, and I can talk about him a little bit too because he's not in my top 40. He is RB 47 for me, so he just missed the list. Consensus has him 43. I mean, it's like you said. I think there. He's such a talented running back, and having
He
been
is.
drafted as late as he was, it's a shame he's never really gotten more of a chance to at least be a lead back. But there was all this hype when he went to Arizona, and then they draft Jordan Love, and there's still all this other competition, right? Bam Knight is still making noise, and Trey Benson and James Conner, right? Forget all that though. Like, let's just focus on Jordan Love plus toughest schedule in the NFL, probably. Those two things alone, I think, make me really weary of having any stock in Tyler Algier, unless I'm getting Jordan Love and using him as a handcuff.
Yeah. It's a really sticky place, the Arizona Cardinals. Of course, we'll get more into that uh, list. Foley, who you got for number 40?
I have a guy who's probably not on your top 40. He's consensus 50. I have him at 40 though, and that is Isaiah Pacheco of the Detroit Lions. And Uriah is making a face, and I understand why. He is certainly not going to be what David Montgomery was as the sort of counterpart to Jahmyr Gibbs in the Detroit backfield. But I do think we're overestimating. Like, I don't think that suddenly Jameer Gibbs is the bell cow who never comes off the field, and sometimes he's going to line up out wide. By the way, and so that all, and but they'll still have a running back in the backfield, and that will usually be Isaiah Pacheco. So I think 40 is a fair place for him. He could easily finish, I think, as RB 20 even. I'm not saying that's likely, but I think his ceiling is probably around RB 20. So I think it's totally fair to get him at 40 when his floor, I think, is probably 60. So you're getting him right in the middle. I think. Like, I don't see a world where if Pacheco stays healthy, he's outside the top 60 running backs this year. And again, I do think there's a chance he could be as high as 20 if he does prove himself to be as good as Montgomery. Again, I don't think he will, but it's kind of a hedge. But I don't mind Pacheco, especially if he's 1 year removed from his sort of injury history that kind of slowed him down. We've seen him be a really good running back. He just
I,
hasn't. He just wasn't last year.
I just don't think his skill set fits the Detroit Lions like that. I don't even know who the third string is. Me personally, I would rather have that person than Pacheco. But
The third stringer is Sion Vaki.
never mind, I'm good.
But see, I disagree with you. I think that Pacheco actually, like, he's got that sort of, people used to say runs like a mean kid or something. And, like, he's got this sort of grit to the way he runs the football that I think actually does fit well with the Detroit ethos.
Okay. All right, so let's move on to number 39, and this is one of Foley's babies. I'm going to go with Mr. Kenneth Gainwell.
Okay.
I
Yeah.
have I got Mr. Gainwell with 700 yards rushing and 2 touchdowns.
You've got him
Um,
lower than I do, so I'll talk about him later.
yeah, I get that. Once again, and let me start with saying this. This is totally kind of off the subject, but it is the subject. Preseason games, please, guys, do not lose your minds for preseason games. This is ones against third string against fifth string. Don't believe the hype when you watch all this. Still pay attention to your news. But anyway, the Bucks. Once again, I'm probably too low on him. I will say that. I do like him. It just, man, it just depends. I mean, it's going to be one or the other, Bucky or him. I'm leaning toward Bucky, but it's liable to just be all Gainwell. So it's shot in the dark on this, but that's who I got.
Yeah. Uh,
Uh, Go
I'll say
ahead.
more about him in a bit because I'm not too with him yet on my rankings. My 49 is a guy who I need to, I mean, excuse me, 39 is a guy that I need to do. He might move up or down based on some updates around him, but that is Zach Charbonnet, the Seahawks running back coming off an ACL. He will not be healthy to start the year. But he was so good before his injury. He was taking a lot of snaps away from Ken Walker. It was a really frustrating situation. You and I have talked about, and I'm sure we'll talk about him later. I know for a fact that we will talk about him later. The rookie that they just brought in, they drafted at number 32 overall. Blanking on his name at the moment.
That
Uh,
would be Jadarian. Is it?
Jadarian Price from
Yeah.
Notre Dame. Yes, thank you. We'll talk about Jadarian Price later. Neither of us liked him as a prospect very much, though. We at least had some major concerns. So, if we get a fully healthy Charbonnet in October, I think, which I think is a real possibility that he's back October. ACL is usually 9 months. He got hurt in January, so Uh, but if Price is as underwhelming as we think, then Charbonnet has a chance to really command that backfield from there. There's a chance Price is great and it's a weird, ugly mix, but I have him at 39 as kind of a ceiling pick. You're going to have to stash him, which I don't love to do in a lot of leagues,
Yeah.
but there is some potential with him.
So I will just go ahead and say 38, Jadarian Price.
Okay.
Um, uh, 600 yards and 8 TDs. I really think Seattle's going to struggle at the start. Um, I do believe in the other offensive pieces, but as far as the running back, I'm not sold on it, and I believe that's going to cause a problem for the team starting out this year.
I'll say you're not going to believe this. I'm not going to talk about consensus right now, and this is not as high as I have him for sure. But some people, quote unquote experts, have him as high as RB 15.
Ain't no way
I
I can
can't do
that.
that either.
No. And I will say this. I mean, we're doing 40 running backs, so we're gonna have some misses. Just so you say that.
Sure. Yeah. Not many.
Right?
Not many.
Not many.
And by the way, before I give mine, I want to go back to what Uriah said about preseason because I agree with him. Like what they do on the field in preseason, that doesn't really matter, but that doesn't mean preseason doesn't matter. And I think our running backs are the perfect time to talk about that. That it doesn't affect our discussion much today because there's only been the Hall of Fame game. Real preseason has not really gotten started yet. But last year at this time, people were really, really hyping up Caleb Johnson.
Yes.
To a certain podcast that maybe is our competitors, we're our peers over at the Fantasy Footballers. We're on the same level as them, right?
Absolutely.
They were talking about how Caleb Johnson was going to be a league winner. It's going to be so great. And I knew it was BS because I was paying attention to preseason. And what was happening was, while Ken Gainwell was resting with the starters, Ken Gainwell and Jaylen Warren were both resting with the starters, Caleb Johnson was playing into the fourth quarter of all of their games, which was a huge signal that he was going to be a backup. He was going to ride the bench all season unless people got hurt. And that's exactly what happened. He was a bust.
Yeah, just in case y'all don't know, the starters, about halfway through the first quarter, they're wearing sweatpants and t-shirts. So if your guy is not wearing that in the second quarter, probably not. He's probably battling out stuff.
And every team handles it differently, and so you've really got to pay attention more than anything. Okay, he's on the field. Who's on the field with him? Or are other people, are the big names resting? The Rams, for instance, none of their starters touch the field all preseason. They do not play at all in the preseason. And some are more aggressive with how much they get used in the preseason. So it's really a question of who else is on the field with this guy that you're paying attention to. And in Caleb Johnson's case, nobody good. And so I was able to dodge that landmine, and I did draft both Jaylen Warren and Ken Gainwell, and it took me to a championship. So that's where preseason does matter. I did just want to acknowledge that. My 38, and I'm going to be interested to see whether you have him in your top 40 or not. I feel like I might end up nudging him down, but there's something I kind of like about him. That's Tyjae Spears.
Interesting. Okay.
I have always had such mixed feelings about Tyjae Spears. I've never loved him as a player. When he was taking snaps away from Derrick Henry his rookie year, I thought that was absurd. But he has, in small sample sizes, kind of always managed to flash. He's never just gone away. I've always kind of expected him to just become irrelevant, and he's never quite become irrelevant. He's done enough every year. Tony Pollard's still there. Tony Pollard's theoretically the guy, as well as the rookie.
Singleton.
Nick Singleton is there as well. But like I think Spears will be ahead of Nick Singleton. And you know, Spears is getting older. I mean, not Spears. Pollard is getting older. I think if it doesn't happen this year for Spears, we can never talk about him in fantasy again. But you know,
I think this is his exit year myself.
That's more likely than not.
Yeah.
You know, when we're talking about these, like in these 30s, these are guys who like, hey, there's a path to production here. That's more than just a prayer, but more likely than not, they're not going to be relevant.
All right. Let's move on to number 37. I'm going to go with Mr. Aaron Jones. I got him with 700 yards and 5 TDs. Listen, you know how I feel about Kyler Murray. I think he is probably in the best situation he will ever be in. And, man, him running, the outside receivers, I'm afraid, I'm not going to say Minnesota to the Super Bowl, but man, I'm trying not to buy in, but it's kind of hard not to.
It's
So
so funny
Aaron
to hear
Jones,
that from you.
37.
It's so funny to hear Uriah buying into Kyler Murray.
Dude, like I mean, we said it. What 2 years ago, 3 years ago? You could throw to
Hmm.
Jetta and Addison,
Hmm.
and then Hawkinson. I mean,
Yeah.
so anyway, who you,
Yeah. I mean, look, I think I had Kyler ranked higher than you do, but
you did.
yeah. But there is the more we talk, the more I think you're actually more bought into them than I am.
They're kind of growing on me. It's just man, it's just they got a good defense.
Oh yeah.
They have wonderful pieces. It's just the quarterback. Is the quarterback going to hold them back? And I'm kind of just going with how he was treated with Sam Darnold. How what's the coach?
Kevin
Stefanski. O'Connell.
O'Connell.
Yeah. I mean, he's supposed to be the quarterback whisperer. Now
Yeah.
he couldn't whisper McCarthy last year,
Or
but
Carson Wentz or Max Bromer.
I hate to say it, but let's go Vikings.
Okay. Okay. Look, I love Brian Flores and the Vikings defense. I think that's the most fun defense to watch in the NFL right now. Um, Last year did put a sour taste in my mouth. Um, because yes, previously we had said like, yeah, Kevin O'Connell just makes every quarterback look
Yeah.
great. Romeo Dobbs, Nick Mullins. But then we saw three different quarterbacks on the field last year who all were bad. Now, the offensive line was a mess. Theoretically, it should be better this year. But, anyways, we're
Yeah.
not talking about quarterbacks. We're talking about running backs.
Yeah.
And that's where you've got Aaron Jones.
So 37. Who you got?
37 for me is, I hate to say it, it's J.K. Dobbins. Um, he's so talented. I would like to have him higher, but he just can't stay healthy. It's kind of like the Joe Burrow thing, but even
Yeah.
worse. He just cannot stay healthy. He's consensus 33. I've got him 37. If you could promise me he'd stay healthy, he'd be a top 20 running back for me. But it just every single year falls apart. And he looks great at the start of every year, but then it falls apart. So week one, I'll probably look like a fool for having him this low. But I don't think it'll. I don't think by like Halloween he'll still be in the lineup.
Yeah, I get that. Totally do. Um, let's go. Now, this is going to be a shock to probably everybody, but man, I just can't buy into it. Number 36, Mr. Cam Scatterboo.
Ooh.
600 yards and 4 TDs. Um, I would almost equate the Giants roster with Miami. I do think they're slightly above Miami. I'm afraid everybody has too much hype with Scatterboo and Dart. I just don't see it. You can only throw a bowling ball at a brick wall so many times before it breaks. Um, I'm that's me. Don't really care for 'em.
Well, it's funny you say that because I have the other Giants running back at 36, Tyrone Tracy, um, who I'm assuming you don't have in your top 40. Am I right?
I do. He's
You
slightly
do?
above
Okay.
this.
Okay, interesting. So Tracy is consensus 42. I've got him 36. He's a fun running back to watch, but his production obviously took a huge dip last year from his rookie year. I think he'll still be very involved, and I think Devin Singletary this year will be a non-factor, whereas he was still a little bit last year with because he's friends with Brian Dayball, who is still coaching. I think Singletary's not involved anymore. This is a two-headed beast, but you kind of have to accept two-headed beasts. And the good thing about, I mean, in today's NFL, there are very few bell cows, so committees have to be a part of it, just like you mentioned Aaron Jones. Um, but the one thing that Tracy has going for him, besides the fact that he's just really, really a slippery player, some people have described him as he's running like he's drunk all the time. Um, but beyond that, Cam Scatterboo, just his insanity, he could easily get hurt again. Uh,
Hmm.
from what I hear, like his recovery's been fine. It's an easy recovery with the bone break, but he just plays so recklessly that it's not hard to imagine him getting a concussion or any other kind of serious injury that would then make Tyrone Tracy a primary back. So I do have Scatterbo ahead of him. I'm not. I'll spoil that. But I think having Tracy at 36 is good, and I don't blame you necessarily for having him even a touch higher. Although I can't quite stomach it.
So you will see like this 40 to 27 ish. There's a lot of running back by committee members.
Yeah, yeah.
And I guess where I'm coming from is in a total, in a vacuum, like, the Vikings will have 1,200 yards rushing, just say. And I'm kind of splitting it down the middle, maybe a hair this, hair that. But, and I'm sure one of them's going to bust out and be just great. But I think as far as drafting, you kind of have, like, your ceilings and your floors. And this is a little bit in between all that. So like I said, you'll see in my next couple of picks.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, it's pick your poison right now because it's so many committees in today's NFL. You're gonna have to figure that out. But go ahead with your 35.
35, Mr. Kyle Monanganai. 600 yards and 5 TDs. Once again, I mean, was it Swift? Yeah, I mean, he's great, but who knows? I mean, that's all I can say. I'm gonna lean toward more Swift. The analytics show that it's gonna be more with Swift, so that's where I'm at.
So I will say he is not in my top 40 at all. He is right now 43 for me. I can imagine bumping him up it's again one of those, like, we'll see how preseason goes, how he's being used. I can imagine bumping him up as high as maybe 30, depending on how it goes. But as things stand right now, he just wasn't used consistently enough as a rookie to ever. And I had him. I had him and Swift both, and there were weeks where I started both of them, and it went great. Like, I remember there was one week they each had 25 points. Fantastic. 10 out of 10 recommend. But his usage was so inconsistent, it's really hard to trust that, unless Ben Johnson just trusts him more now that he's not a rookie. We'll see how that goes with preseason usage.
All right, 35. Who you got?
35 is where I have Aaron Jones. Not
a big difference.
Yeah, not a big difference at all. What probably will be a big difference, though, I'm assuming, is that right now I don't have Jordan Mason in my top 40. I expect you do. Maybe I'm wrong. But I don't have Jordan Mason in my top 40. I have Aaron Jones ahead of him. Jones is a lot more versatile, is what it comes down to, especially in a PPR league. Like, he can catch out of the backfield, and that there is some value to that. In the Folalytics model, if you can catch out of the backfield, that goes a long way. Jordan Mason just can't really do that. It was an ugly split last year, though. Jordan Mason was the better of the two last year. I won't pretend otherwise, but it was generally Jordan Mason between the 20s and Aaron Jones in the end zone, if I remember right. Or maybe I go backwards.
The only thing I'll say, I mean, I totally agree with you on everything you're saying. I think the part that I took into account, and this is coming from me, what I've seen, when you have a running quarterback, when you get out there on the flats turn into blocks. And that's kind of where I was coming with from Aaron Jones. But I totally get what you're saying.
Yeah, and I'm like, it didn't feel good, and it's one where I very well could do a manual adjustment from where the model have them ranked, because it's 3 years of production that the model looks at, and certainly the first of the longest back of those 3 years. 3 years ago, Aaron Jones was a fantastic running back, and so those numbers might still be propping him up a little bit more than he deserves.
All right, so I will go to my number 34. Once again, you'll see the correlation. Zach Charbonnet. I do think he will be Zach Charbonnet, 700 yards and 5 touchdowns. You'll see Price has more touchdowns, slightly less yards. Once again, I can't predict the future, but I feel pretty confident that Price will have more touchdowns. I think Charbonnet will be the second half, or the second 3 quarters of the season will be the better of the two. So that's where I have him.
Yeah, nothing to add.
All right,
That works.
34.
34. I have Rashad White, who is now with the Washington Commanders. Um,
Interesting.
Sorry, Bill. I as longtime fans know, I was really early on the Bill train last year. I was the one. I broke the news that Ja'Cory Krosky Merritt likes to be called Bill before Aaron Schefter broke the news.
On this pod.
Yes, I was early to it. I have some good sources in the NFL who provided me with that information. Happy to share it with our audience before the quote unquote insiders could get to it. And I drafted Ja'Cory Krosky Merritt
You did.
really friggin' early last year, just for the hilarity of it all as much as anything. Um, but I don't think he's going to be the starting running back for the Washington Commanders. I think that is going to be Rashad White, who has never been amazing, but he has been cogent, uh, perfectly productive. Um, he was in more of a limited role last year. I'm sure he'll be sharing the backfield with Krosky Merritt, but I think White is the lead guy. And there is some high potential for a lead back in with the Commanders. We saw that with Eckler has flashed so much since Jaden Daniels has been the quarterback there. And yeah, when you have a running quarterback, you were talking about the guys in the flats become blockers, but also if you have a running quarterback, that just opens up the entire run game and can do some really good things for running backs. We've seen that over and over again, going back to when Cam Newton was doing it, and he had Jonathan Stewart and whoever else. To more recently, Josh Allen and James Cook, or the list of Lamar and Derrick Henry, right? No, Rashad White's no Derrick Henry, of course, but I think he can benefit from the system if Jaden Daniels can stay healthy, which is a huge if. But even if it's Marcus Mariota, same kind of thing. So yeah, I like where I have Rashad White. He probably won't move up much up or down.
Yeah. All right, let's go to my number 33. We've talked about him. Tyrone Tracy, 700 yards and 4 touchdowns. Once again, about the same as Cam. Like I said earlier, you can take one, lift him up a little bit higher, drop one, either way, but I think it's just going to be a running back by committee, and whoever has the hot hand gets the ball.
Yeah, that's no argument, no argument. You're gonna be mad at my 33.
Hit me.
I feel it coming. Bashal Tutin. I feel like you're gonna want him to be higher than that.
He will be higher than that.
Look, man, I just can't trust it. When I am a Chris Rodriguez hater, which is why Chris Rodriguez is down at 49 for me, and I might still move him much lower than that. But Bashal Tutin hasn't managed to win the job. There's talk of this being a 3-headed backfield, and Bashal Tutin is just a third down back or something that.
You can't believe that. I mean, do you remember Justin Jefferson? His rookie year was the 4th string.
Sure.
Wide receiver. I mean, whatever. I can get whatever.
Yeah, but Tutin's not a rookie anymore.
I mean, I understand that, but I have to see this. I mean, once again, I'm just going by on things I've heard. Like you said, from people that play. I just heard the man's special. And if he wasn't so special, they wouldn't have got rid of
Etienne.
Etienne.
They didn't want to give Etienne that money, and I don't blame them. I think they were right to move on from him. I mean, look, Tutin is very he looks explosive. He's twitchy. He's a very twitchy athlete. That's why people are excited about him. And totally, he could be that. He could be a monster. What I will say is that last year, for a guy who is described as explosive as much as he is, he had one run of more than 20 yards, maybe not even that. No, I think his long might have been 19 yards. His longest run was 19 yards, I want to say.
I may be really bad on that pick, but he's way up there.
I get it. Look, I totally get why people like him. I'm just saying it's all so theoretical, and there's no I'm cool with theoretical upside with a rookie running back after their rookie year, though. As longtime listeners have figured out by now, there are guys like Chase Brown who, if it just doesn't come year one, I'm usually not going to be crazy about them. Now, look, I'm going to talk about Chase Brown later. I don't have him outside my top 40 or anything, but these guys who running back is the position where you should most be able to contribute as a rookie, and when they don't do it, it's hard for me to ever trust them again. And that's where I am with Tootin.
All right, number 32, you're probably going to be way higher than this guy. Blake Corum, 700 yards and 7 TDs. Once again, you got Kyron. They're probably going to have the same amount of yards, same amount of touchdowns. It's going to come back probably to receiving. But I'm just going to put Blake here. I think, once again, I think he's good. I just think he's the lower of the two. Like,
Yeah,
1B.
sure. For sure, he's the lower of the two. Listen, I have him at 42. He's not in my top 40. And I love Blake Corum. I believed he was the best running back in his draft class, and I think last year he proved that. But it's a backfield I kind of just want to avoid. Um, so I might move him into the top 40, but not by much. He's 42, and I feel okay about that, just to stay away from things.
I get
And
that.
I will, spoiler alert, I actually do think Kyron is going to have a good year.
Okay. All right, 32 for you.
32 for me, you talked about him already. It's Ken Gainwell. It's another one where it's hard to know what he'll be in this offense because things are just very, very different. It's a different situation from last year. Ken Gainwell contributed so much or benefited so much from Aaron Rodgers just checking down a whole game, every game, because he didn't want to get hit. And so it was just dump off to Ken Gainwell, dump off to Ken Gainwell, dump off to Ken Gainwell, which worked out great for me. I don't think he's going to have that level of PPR production this year. It's just hard to imagine in Baker's offense, but he's going into a situation. He's got Zach Robinson's going to be his offensive coordinator, who for the last 2 years was with Atlanta and Bijan, and obviously Bucky Irving is going to be the main focal point there. But Tyler Algier was still quite productive in that offense, and I think Gainwell can as well, with more receiving upside than Algier did in Atlanta. Because I'll talk about this forever when I talk about Ken Gainwell. Gainwell made one of the sickest catches. It was the best catch of the year last year. Ken Gainwell made the best catch of the year last year, and it's rare that you say that about a running back. So he's in my good graces forever just for that.
Okay. Number 31, my baby, Mr. Woody Marks. 700 yards, 4 TDs, 500 receiving yards, and 4 TDs. It's got to be somebody. I think Montgomery is going to be doing the rushing. I think Woody's going to be third down, a little bit of second down. I really think the Texans are going to cook this year. I think it's now saying that, I could be totally wrong, but I think it's going to be more of a rushing attack than the standard CJ Stroud pattern. But I think he's going to have a good year.
So he's outside of my top 40. Woody is 41 for me. He just barely missed. He is 41. He is the first off my list.
Okay.
So what I agree with is, yes, David Montgomery is going to be the early down back. Woody will be the third down back and second and long. I think that's right. I do think this is going to be a pretty pass-happy offense, though, just given the sheer number of weapons that they have with Nico Collins, Jaden Higgins, Tank Dell, Jalen Noel. Jalen Noel, is that? No.
Yeah, Jalen.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. All those guys, I think it's going to be fairly pass-happy. But when they do run the ball, it will be David Montgomery. But when they're passing the ball, I just think that Woody Marks is so far down the target list, the target distribution list, that it's hard for me to trust it. He could work out. It's not a bad dart throw of a pick. I think I would look for someone with higher upside.
Okay. So who'd you have at 31? I'm sorry.
At 31, I have Ramondre Stevenson of the New England Patriots, who just won't quite go away.
You
Um,
man, you ain't lying. I have him 41, by the way.
okay, yeah, and that's fair. He's just, where's Woody on Woody? By the way, is 45 on consensus, so I'm still ahead of consensus on Woody. And then Ramondre is 29, so I'm far behind consensus. We're both far behind consensus on him. It's another one, like, we'll see if preseason really clearly indicates things. It's a split backfield. I'm going to talk about his counterpart very, very soon on this list.
Wow. Okay.
Because it is such a split. I think they're right very near each other. They're not literally next to each other on my rankings, but they're very close. Ramondre has, when you take out his fumbles, Ramondre has been a good running back. His fumbles are just so egregious that it's kind of amazing that he still has a job at this point. Anyways, that's it.
All right. So I will say this, and this is kind of a sneak peek, a little. What do you say? How the sausage is made. We'll see who all listens to this bit of advice. So from about 30 all the way to about number 8, this could all be the same. You could take number 30, you could move him to number 8. You could take number 8, you could move him to number 30. This is a big pile of crap. I say crap like it's not a bad situation. It's not a bad crap. It's like a this is just a, and you'll see it. You'll see. But I mean,
What I would say is, like, on my rankings, if I were to just break these into really big tiers, 30 to 19 you can put in any order you want, but then, like, the top 18 players, I think any of them could have a chance to be RB1.
and yeah, I mean that's pretty much what I was saying. But yeah, I mean it's just so beware about that when you draft. Anyway, number 30 for me would be Mr. Jordan Mason. We've talked about him already. 804 TDs. Once again, whoever has the hot hand. Let me ask you this, because you'll know this more than me. O'Connell, does he run any no huddle, or does he run fast paced?
He does more than other people in his coaching tree does.
Yeah.
So yeah, he definitely runs some turbo.
So I would expect with Kyler and whoever the hot hand is to be going fast paced.
Yeah,
And that will help.
Best. Kyler for sure. I'm just gonna go on a quick tangent here. Since Uriah teed me up for this, we dog on Kyler Murray a lot.
Yes.
But if we go back to when my guy Cliff Kingsbury was the head coach of the Arizona Cardinals with Kyler Murray, they were running an absolute clinic on how to run no huddle in the NFL.
And it was fast.
It was so good. It was like literally it's teaching tape for even at the high school level. Like them, and there were a couple years where Josh McDaniels in New England, when he was running it in New England, his first stint as offensive coordinator, those two, the NASCAR offense, it's perfect. It's what everyone should be taking notes on still on how to run no huddle. Anyways, that's a tangent.
All right, so who do you have at 30?
I have at 30 Mr. Knuckles himself, David Montgomery. He's, he requested the trade because he wanted the chance to be the lead back one last time in his NFL career. People forget just how good he was in Detroit, even as a number 2. He was so good. Do I think he'll be great? No, but I think he will be good for Houston, especially if their offensive line is a little bit better than it was last year. I think he has a real chance. We saw Nick Chubb actually be somewhat productive, especially towards the end of the season last year. And at this point in their careers, all due respect to Nick Chubb, I love Nick Chubb, but he was a shell of his former self. And at this point in their careers, David Montgomery is so much better than Nick Chubb. Yeah. I think if we get a little positive regression with that offensive line, he has a chance to be or a high-end RB2.
Okay. Let's go number 29. This will probably surprise you. DeAndre Swift.
Mm,
Uh,
I guess
900
that makes
yards,
sense.
900 yards and 7 touchdowns. I do think Swift will be your number one. And like I said later, I think Monanganai will come up and steal a little bit of his shine. So that's, I mean, I do expect a lot. I think the Bears are going to be great this year. Um, so kind of like I said, 29-10. I mean, I'm not going to argue if it's in that range.
Yeah, I guess it makes sense for you to have him that low because you have Monungai as high as you do.
Yes.
So props for the internal logic. I think Swift really impressed me. He took his game to another level last year. I have previously been critical of Swift because he was someone who all the physical talents in the world, but was really bad at reading his gaps. Um, that was gone this year. He was able to
Yeah.
follow his gaps. He was able to hit the correct holes. I credit a lot of that just to the coaching he had between Eric Bieniemy, who's gone now, but Ben Johnson's still there. Such a details oriented coach. I think he really got the best out of Swift finally. And so I have a hard time imagining his production goes down after the year he just had. But I understand where you're coming from. Monungai showed a lot of potential, but I'm going to continue to be high on the Chicago offense as a whole, and
Yeah.
Swift is a big part of that.
Yeah, totally get that. Who do you have at 29?
I have at 29 Travion Henderson. So I told you I had Ramondre at 31, Travion at 29. Um, and
And
the Go
I
ahead.
was just going to say, I hope you guys are following what we're putting down because it's kind of, I mean, it's both of our rankings pretty much have the same correlation. Is, you just got to kind of read into what we're talking about.
Yeah.
So go ahead. I'm sorry, fellas.
Travion showed some real explosiveness to his game. The weird thing about Travion's rookie year was that he really struggled with pass protection, which when he was coming out of college, I was like, he's a really good pass protector. I think that's going to help him get on the field early because he's actually already a really good pass protector. Then it just didn't happen his rookie year in the NFL. He was not a good pass protector, which is why I've given up on ever trying to project a running back's pass pro abilities to the NFL. I'm just done trying to do that. But I think he'll be given more opportunities this year. We saw him start to get more opportunities down the stretch. They'll trust him a little bit more. I think in New England with Vrabel and McDaniel, there's probably also an element of like, we're just not going to let the rookie get all these touches, period. Like, it's kind of a New England way type thing. Now that he's in his second year, I think they will trust him a little more, but it's still a two-headed backfield. Ramondre's there. Ramondre's knocking on some Patriots records, actually. He's closing in on some Patriots rushing records, which is weird to think about, but he's really close. Will probably hit them this year, and they're probably going to help him hit them this year. So Ramondre's still a factor. That's the only reason Travion's not higher because I think he is a talented back.
Okay. After sitting here looking at it, I should have DeAndre probably number 27. So I will go not really backwards, but anyway, RJ Harvey. I got him at 706 TDs. Broncos, that's sort of a, man, they have like a three-back problem, and Sean Payton is multiplied on that,
Yeah.
plus a running quarterback. Buyer beware with the Broncos running backs, because if some talking head is like, oh, this and this, they're lying. They don't have a clue either. So that three-headed monster, just good luck with that.
I don't disagree. I'll talk about Harvey later. I'm probably going to end up moving him down from
Yeah,
where I
that's
have him, but I'll talk about him later. I have him higher than you do.
so. Let's see. I guess that'd be 28. Would that be right? 28. Yeah.
28's next for me. Yeah. So it is Quinshon Judkins from Cleveland, who I think had a good. Some people thought he had a great year. He had a great 3-game run, and overall he just kind of had a good year in Cleveland as a rookie. And I think he probably has just another good year. But I think Dylan Sampson is so talented as well that I think you and I both like Dylan Sampson a
Yeah.
lot. So I think Sampson forces his way onto the field enough to keep Quinshon Judkins from being like a top 20 running back for me. But he did have some great games last year. He will be the lead back again. It's a new offense. We'll see how Todd Monken does with the run game. All eyes are on what he does with the quarterbacks. People haven't really paid as much attention to, like, what's the run game going to look like?
Yeah.
But we'll find out. We'll find out. But Judkins 28 for me.
I like it. I probably should have put Sampson on here because Sampson to me is more like a running Woody Marks, if that makes sense. He probably should be on here, but I didn't put him on here. But I really do like him.
Sampson is RB50 for me right now, just so you know.
Yeah, yeah, I can't argue with that. Let's see. I'm going to go with. I guess this. What would this be? 28, 27.
Judkins was my 28. So
okay, so 27. Rashad White, 800 yards and 5 touchdowns, and also saying this is our preseason rankings. Yeah. I hope you're listening and just kind of following through what we're talking about, and hopefully from that you get your own rankings. Like we always say, get your own rankings, get your own tier system, please.
Yeah. So, right now, because preseason hasn't really started yet, don't take our rankings literally. I think you can take them more literally the higher up we go. When we have a clearer picture, like when we get into the top 10, I think we'll feel pretty locked in about our top 10, or at least close to it. But listen to the analysis we're giving is the bigger thing, and the context that these players are in.
All right. Who do you have at number 27?
This is where I have the Crayon Eater, Cam Skattebo. He is still like it's easy to dunk on the guy. It's easy to. I know you're probably a little farther down on the New York offense as a whole than I am. My biggest concerns with the offense are they all seem to have a lot of injury risk. Number one, and number two, the offensive coordinator, who I always blank his name out of my head, was the head coach in Chicago, then went to be offensive coordinator for Kansas City. Matt Nagy. Matt Nagy is the offensive coordinator now, and his track record is abysmal.
Not good. Yeah.
So that's what bothers me most. But Skattebo was a really good running back when he was healthy last year, and we thought he would be. I think we both liked him as a prospect a lot.
I've always been lower on him, but yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, if we broke it down with the Giants, I mean, I'm okay with Dart. I'm okay with Skattebo. I'm okay with Tracy. I think Tracy and Skattebo are basically the same thing, except one's a bruiser and one's, like you said, slippery. But the talent-wise, I think they're about the same. The problem I have with is what the defense is going to look like, and two, the most important, the wide receiver situation. But that's another show. Anyway,
Malachi Fields to the rescue. But yeah, so I mean, look, Skattebo's talented enough that even though I share a lot of your concerns, and again, more than anything, I just wonder if Skattebo can stay healthy or if he's just going to put himself at too much risk. But I have a hard time bringing him lower than 27 because of the talent. I think he's a guy who just has so much touchdown potential.
Okay. Number 26, I got Mr. Tony Pollard. I'm going to throw him out there with 900 yards, 6 TDs, and 250 yards receiving, and 2 TDs receiving. I think we said it on the other podcasts. I'm not going to say Minnesota and Tennessee to me are right there together. Minnesota, believe me, has more talent, but I think it's not way above. Of course, one player is Jetta, but as opposed when you start rolling it down, I think everybody else is pretty close, and I just see Tony having more production than anybody else.
Yeah, I'm even a touch higher on Pollard than you are, so I agree with what you're saying.
All right, who do you have at 26?
I have at 26 Mr. Rico Dowdle. which is a weird one for me to say, but it's just kind of this projection that he steps into the Ken Gainwell role in Pittsburgh. I've always been a bit of a Rico Dowdle hater. Um,
He didn't
and
even
I
make my he didn't make my 40.
really,
Yeah.
I've I can't ignore what he has been able to do the last few years, and as much as I don't hate Jalen Warren, I think Jalen Warren is pretty good, and I do have him ranked higher, as we'll see. Um, I don't think Jalen Warren is so good that he can keep Rico Dowdle off the field, given what Rico has been able to do in multiple stops. He was better than expected in Dallas, and then he was better than expected in Carolina. And so, even if I have a hard time imagining exactly what his role looks like in Pittsburgh now, he's done enough for me to just say, okay, I have to trust that he does have some level of talent that can get him on the field, which is just I feel gross saying because I've never actually thought he's that talented, but he's gotten the production enough that I kind of just have to accept that he's more talented than I think he is.
Okay. I I can't get behind it, but I like I said, this is the area where we just don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, and saying that, like, we don't know. Like last year, we didn't know. I mean, we kind of you knew, I kind of knew with Gainwell. You kind of saw it, so watch that preseason and see. Because look, Caleb Johnson may come running back on the screen. We don't know. I don't believe it, but we just don't know.
Yeah.
25, and I'll probably move him further. I'd probably move this guy down 6 or 7 spots. It's going to be Beal. On here, I got 900 yards and 7 TDs, but that was also before Tunsil and that situation. So,
Yeah.
I'm really, look, I like the Commanders. I like Jaden Daniels. I like Scary Terry. I'm worried. I'm on the bus. I'm worried.
Yeah, for listeners who don't know, Laramie Tunsil, left tackle for the Commanders, is out for the year. It is the year, right? Like,
I think so, but he's out for a long time.
major injury.
Yeah.
And yeah, he was the best offensive lineman
By far.
by far. So yeah, that does hurt everyone. You're right. I actually haven't moved any of the. I moved Jaden down because of the injury, but I did not move the running backs down, and I should do that.
25 for you.
25 for me is another one that this is the last one I'm going to feel like really gross talking about, and he's another one that I'll probably move down lower. But it is, even though I like this guy, I like him. It's Chuba Hubbard. He has been this just perfectly average running back in Carolina for so long.
Yeah.
I know everyone's hyping up Jonathan Brooks right now. I liked Jonathan Brooks a lot coming out of college. I thought he was top 2 or 3 running back in his draft class. I think he was the same class as Corum, so I had Corum number 1, but I might have had, like, right behind Corum were Jalen Wright and Jonathan Brooks. I think Wright has just not gotten the opportunity. And Brooks hasn't either because he's hurt himself every single time he gets on a football field. Back-to-back ACLs does not scream good vibes for me. So I'm all that to say, Mr. Brooks, although many people like him right now, I have him down at 48 and don't think he's going to get much higher than that. And because he has such a potential to get hurt, I think that plays well for Chuba, who I think will be the lead back either way. I think that Jonathan Brooks will only be a compliment to Chuba Hubbard, at least at first. And then if Brooks gets hurt, then it's Hubbard's job to lose. He doesn't have much competition.
Yeah. All right. I'm going to go 24, Mr. Bucky Irving. 900 yards, 6 touchdowns, 300 yards receiving, and 1 receiving touchdown. Man, I know I said it earlier about the other guy, but man, one of them, I'm kind of high on the Bucks this year. So if you like the other one, I'm not going to fault you. But I like Irving.
Yeah, I like Irving more than you do.
I'm sorry, James. I'll say that. Sorry. So go ahead, Foley.
Well, sorry you don't get to keep him for an 18th round pick, 18th or 19th round pick this year, James.
Yeah.
That's a bit of a bummer for James, but hey, he voted for it, and I'm glad he did. I have at number 24. This will be controversial. It is Josh Jacobs. He's just. This is really like he'll probably finish above 24. I have moved him to his floor ish because I just don't want to draft him. Is like where he's going to go in drafts is not appealing to me. So I've effectively moved him off my board by pulling him down to 24. He was not great last year. He was kind of not even good last year. Pack that with the fact that see what I did there? Pack that with the fact that he has legal issues hanging over his head, and more importantly for this context, his offensive line's gotten even worse. The Packers' offensive line is a mess. I talked about that with on the quarterback show when I talked about Jordan Love and having him a bit low. I think it's also going to affect Jacobs. I'm not excited about him as a running back this year. He has been very good in years past. His last year with Vegas, I think it was, and his first year with Green Bay were great. But I think this is where it ends for him. And yeah, so I'm out on Josh Jacobs.
So there has to be, and this also, I mean, he's slightly above where you're at, but not by much. Watch the preseason. Who is number 2? Who would be the start running back if Jacobs is, in your opinion?
Yeah, I mean, I think right now it's Marshawn Lloyd, but Lloyd's kind of like Brooks in the sense that he's never been able to stay healthy, so that opens up like Chris Brooks, or dare I say Damian Martinez.
So who do you like though?
I think Lloyd is talent. I think Lloyd is the most talented of those guys. But Lloyd has these injury. That whole draft class was just riddled with injuries, and he's another like. That was the same draft class, I think, if I'm remembering right, as Brooks and as Kendre Miller, all these guys who were like, yeah, they could be something, but they just never are healthy at all. Like they're missing entire season, their entire pro career is on IR. So Lloyd's another one of those, but I do think he is the most talented. I don't think Chris Brooks is particularly talented. By NFL standards, I want everyone to understand when I'm saying like, oh, these guys aren't talented. They're NFL players. Of course they're talented. Of course. Don't come at me saying, oh, you whatever. Of course they're talented. But relative to the baseline that we're looking for, these guys are not.
All right, so I'll go with number 23. It's going to be Mr. Travis Etienne, however you want to pronounce it. Yeah, whatever, dude. I got him for 1,008 touchdowns. This could be Kamara. This could be whatever. It could be Etienne 500, Kamara 500. I don't know. I'm just kind of going with they gave the man a big contract. They're going to be a decent team. So decent team, decent running back.
It's kind of sad Kamara didn't just retire. It's sad to see him in this sort of reserve complimentary role because he's such a legend.
Yeah.
Yeah. So who do you... well, I'll talk about Etienne later. My 23 is someone you already talked about. That is Tony Pollard. I think you can pretty much go back to our podcast on running backs this time a year ago, listen to what I said about Tony Pollard then, and it applies.
Same thing.
Except I think last year I had him at 20 and now he's down to 23. But he's just such a safe pick. He is not going to be a league winner. He is not going to sniff RB1. An RB2 is what he is to his core. Yeah. And that's fine. There's a place for that. There was a place for that on my roster, and I eventually traded him I traded for him. That was a bad trade, but then I flipped him. And got Baker Mayfield out of it, so it all worked out. But he's this safe guy, and if you have a lot of if you're going 0 RB, which I don't know that this is a year to do it,
I think you're right, and I agree. This is probably not the best year to try to do zero RB. Um, but if you do go that route, I think Tony Pollard is a great one to draft, along with a lot of riskier, high upside guys like a Tony Pollard and a Bashal Tutin, and pick your poison of I don't know, Travion, Ramondre, whoever you like in the like high ceiling, low floor guys.
Yeah.
But pair him with a stabilizing presence in Tony Pollard.
All right. Let's move on. Number 22, I have Kyron Williams, 1,100 yards, 11 TDs, and 200 yards receiving. The main thing to me that's going to move Kyron up or down would be his touchdowns. And saying that, you got Blake Corum, so like I said earlier, this could be Kyron and Blake both have 800 yards, 600 yards. So, once again, pretty good team, pretty good running back, but you got McVay pulling the trigger and Corum there, so that's be careful.
Yeah, fair enough. I will have him higher, and at 22, you're gonna think I'm too high on him, and I understand where you're coming from, but Jadarian Price, I mean, to me, as much as again, like you can go back and listen to our draft season, NFL draft season review. I had my question marks. I didn't think Jadarian Price was worth a late first round pick, but he's going to be alone in that backfield in September, maybe October as well, and so that's valuable. He actually will probably have a bell cow role because there's just no competition for him early on. And then if he does do well, hey, maybe he doesn't lose many snaps to Charbonnet. I think Charbonnet's great. I think Charbonnet is a better running back when healthy. But things could work out that Price is just so good, they let him continue to be the bell cow all through the year, in which case I think at 22 you kind of got to steal. So I'm good with taking him right there. Let me see where he is on consensus. I told you some people have him as high as 15, but consensus, or 15. He's 27 consensus. I think early 20s is where to take him.
Okay. We've already talked about him. Number 21, Mr. Josh Jacobs. 1,100 yards, 8 TDs, 250 yards receiving, 2 TDs receiving. Once again, monitor the suspension if it happens, if it doesn't. If it doesn't, I'm going to go green light on Josh. Saying that, I'm afraid the Packers this year will be a disappointment.
Yeah, I think so.
So just beware of that. But I do think if he doesn't get suspended, I think you gotta draft him personally.
Listen, I do want to pause here and give a big shout out to Matt, who has given up on the footballers. Footballers weren't getting him where he needed to be, so he came over here to listen to us. And I hate for him to hear us downing the Packers. Neither of us think the Packers are going to be great this year, but we do love you, Matt.
Absolutely.
And yeah, we could be wrong. I don't think we're going to be wrong about this, though.
All right, who do you have at 21?
I have Jeremiah Love, the rookie, highest rookie running back pick in a long time. Maybe since Zeke or Saquon, I guess. He was the highest drafted. I can't think of anyone since Saquon who was drafted that high. Saquon went number 2. He went number 3. Bijan was number 8, 6, something like that. Anyways, I think Love is talented. I think Love is very, very talented. But bad situation to be in. As I've said, Arizona, hardest schedule in the NFL. Decent but not amazing offensive line. Like, I can kind of talk myself into the offensive line not being as much of a problem as it was for Genty last year, for instance. But it's not a good offensive line by any means. And you pair that with, he's got a Tyler Algier there nipping at his heels. Algier wants to be on the field. Love has talked pretty openly about the fact that he thinks this is going to be a committee, and he's okay with that. I think what you're wanting to get out of Love, you're just going to be a little bit disappointed this year. He could have a great career. I think relative to expectations, he'll be underwhelming as a rookie.
And I'll just roll that in. Number 20 for me is Jeremiah Love.
There you go.
1,000 yards, 7 TDs. Completely agree. Bad situation. You got a really talented guy behind you, ahead of you. So-so quarterback, so-so line, so-so wide receivers. They could be. This is a whole recipe of the team could be a lot better than where we're at. I don't think it is, but I won't be surprised if they're like up there. But that's my number 20. Who do you have at 20?
I have Mr. Jalen Warren, who I think this is a great. Warren is a super safe pick, kind of like Pollard, and maybe has a little bit more upside than Pollard as well. If you look at what he did last year, it was really, really good while sharing things with Ken Gainwell. This year, instead of Gainwell, it's Rico Dowdle, who we talked about earlier. And again, I don't think Dowdle is like an amazing, spectacular NFL running back, as productive as he has been. And certainly he's never flashed as much of a receiver. And so with Aaron Rodgers still there, he does check the ball down to his running backs a ton. So especially in PPR, I think there's a really high ceiling for Jalen Warren now that Ken Gainwell is not getting some of those receiving snaps.
Yeah, totally agree on that one. He's just a few spots up. I'll go number 19, Mr. Quinshawn Judkins. I got him at 1,000 yards, 8 touchdowns, 200 yards receiving, 1 receiving touchdown. Once again, Quinshawn could have 800 yards and Sampson have 600 yards. I mean, just when it comes to these situations, like we were saying, from like 30 on up to like 15 or whatever, you have to look at committees. You also got to look at when you draft. Take all that into consideration. I mean, like, if Quinshawn is like your number 3 running back, number 4 quarterback, running back, I said, I would love that personally. So always be thinking about that. 19, Foley, who you got?
This is one I don't feel good about. I'm probably going to move him down. You talked about him much earlier. And I will just preface this by saying one thing my model does struggle with is the small sample size guys and figuring out. I think the entire community is bad at figuring out what to do with small sample size guys. RJ Harvey. I don't want to draft a Sean Payton running back ever, and so I will probably move him down just to make sure that I don't. But there are some things in my model that does like what Harvey did last year. And if we assume that J.K. Dobbins will inevitably get hurt, and I think he probably will, unfortunately. I don't want to wish that on him. I don't wish that on him. But history tells us it's probably what's going to happen. That opens up a huge opportunity. I think there is less competition for him in the backfield than there would have been a year ago, or historically what we've seen with Sean Payton offenses. I think Harvey has differentiated himself enough that he has a real chance to be a lead back. 19 is probably drafting not at his ceiling, but closer to his ceiling than I would be comfortable with. Or, no. Let me rephrase that. I think he has the ceiling of a top 10 running back. But I think he does have a pretty low floor. So it is a risky pick.
Totally agree. 18. Ooh, I'm probably going to get you on this one, but this should tell you everything what I think about the team. Devon Achane. 1,000 yards rushing, 5 TDs, and 400 yards and 4 TDs receiving. I have zero faith in the Dolphins. Do not draft this guy. Once again, you're going to hear, oh, draft capital, draft capital. I'm just telling you, don't do it. You're going to be upset. That's what I got for that.
Okay. That's. I understand where you're coming from. That's a little too spicy for me, and God knows we like some spice. And
Right.
I do.
So
For me, this is where, like, starting with 18, I think we get into this more exciting tier of guys who pretty much everyone else I'm going to talk about today, I think has a chance to be RB1. So that starts with me, DeAndre Swift.
I don't have much more to say than what I said earlier when you talked about him. He
Yeah.
was just so good last year. He had his best year of his career. Maybe not statistically. I'd have to look back and see statistically versus what he did in Philly. Uh, but he was just really, really good. He found a new level to his game following the blocks, as I said earlier. And another year with Ben Johnson, I think, is only going to help the cause. Kyle Monongai is the risk. Does he eat into targets? That's why I don't have Swift higher than 18. But we're talking about someone with RB1 potential.
All right. Number 17 for me will be Mr. Trevion Henderson. I have them, I'm not going to say Ramondre in the graveyard, but anyway, Trevion, 1,100 yards rushing, 8 TDs, 300 yards receiving, 2 TDs receiving. I do expect for Trevion to make a move up this year and be more of a number one running back as opposed to a committee.
That's big. That is bold, my friend.
Last two have been pretty bold, my friend.
Yeah, no argument, no argument. Even if I disagree, this is where I have Bucky Irving at 17. I think again, Zach Robinson, offensive coordinator. He had Bijan last year. We saw he took Bijan to another level, and I'm a huge Bijan fan. I don't think Bucky Irving is Bijan, to be clear. I don't think he is as good as Bijan Robinson, who we'll talk about later. But if Bucky is healthy, and he had some major health issues last year for sure, but if he's healthy, even with Ken Gainwell there, I think he can be a really high-end running back again, just like he was his rookie year. And they're probably going to need him to. Given the loss of Mike Evans, I think there's still there's going to be a new identity to this offense, and I think he's got to be a part of it. Expect a ton of outside zone. By the way, Bucky, much better zone runner than gap runner. We're going to go deep here for a quick second, get real into the weeds here. If you go back to Bucky's rookie year, we talked about on this show. There was this point in the year where he was sharing the backfield with Rachaad White, and what we saw was Rachaad White was getting all of the gap carries or power carries, and Bucky was getting all the outside zone carries, and that's where he was cooking. He was just eating them alive on the outside zone. Well, in Atlanta, that's all Zach Robinson really ran. It was outside zone all the time, and so I think he's going to get plenty of opportunities to do what he does best.
All right, number 16, and once again, this guy could be way up at the top. Like I said, this where we're at right now is a big mashup. I have at number 16, Mr. Derrick King Henry, 1,200 yards rushing and 10 TDs. I mean, you heard that right. That's not really a low number, but I mean, like I said, man, I got some receiving running backs up top, and I think you have to. I think most people now do PPR. I could be wrong, but I feel like that's a pretty big thing. But, last year we kind of lost track of King Henry. I think it was more of a fluke, but, every year we're like, this is the year Derrick Henry falls off the cliff. This is the year. Never happens. So that's kind of baked into this also. So number 16 for you, Foley.
That's why I'm not talking about Derrick Henry yet, because I'm just never going to predict his demise ever again. Learned my lesson many years ago. So for me at 16, and again, I'll say this for every pick, any of these guys could be RB1. Omarion Hampton, for me, is 16. The only reason he's not higher is he was one that, he did have injuries last year. As much as, oh, look at that. For our listeners who aren't watching on YouTube, a very pretty, looked like holographic Omarion Hampton rookie card.
Yeah.
So that's cool. He's talented. I think he can be a really interesting fit with Mike McDaniel. We've seen Mike McDaniel make some awesome running backs. I might end up moving Hampton up before we get to the regular season because of that. There is also Keaton Mitchell in the backfield. I was kind of wondering if you were going to have him in your 30s, but he's in my 40s, and I guess you're at least that low. But Keaton Mitchell might steal some carries. I think that's okay. Hampton can still be really good, even sharing the backfield a touch.
but there's a good chance he doesn't. It's just like a bad taste in my mouth of that offensive line last year, and the fact that Hampton missed a little bit of time last year. As a rookie, I really don't want you to miss time because I've only got this 1 year sample size on you anyways.
Yeah. Let's see. I will go next to my number 15 would be Mr. Jalen Warren. 1,000 yards, 7 TDs, 300 yards receiving, 2 receiving touchdowns. I'm high on the Pittsburgh Steelers. I don't know why, but I am. So that's where that comes from. Who do you have at number 15?
This is where I have reigning Super Bowl MVP Kenneth Walker, who is going to an interesting situation in Kansas City. I don't think their run blocking is great, and that's the main reason I don't have him any higher than 15. But we saw down the stretch Ken Walker can be such a good and patient running back. We've seen spurts of that throughout his career. Hasn't always been consistent, but he's always been pretty good at minimum. And it's a situation where their running backs just sucked last year in Pacheco and in the kicker. I'm blanking on his name, and that's a terrible joke of mine to call him a kicker. Uriah is so distracted. He starts with a K, right?
I'm in a computer crisis right now, so go ahead.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Okay. Well, anyways, those two running backs were terrible last year, and there is this feeling of, okay, if you just get a decent one, rushing touchdowns will come. Well, Ken Walker is certainly better than decent, so he can rack up some rushing touchdowns, I think. It's my only concern with them is I am not big on the Kansas City offensive line, but still, RB15.
All right, number 14, Omarion Hampton. I have him 1,100 yards and 9 TDs, 200 yards receiving, 2 TDs receiving. A little worried about the message where I think Mike McDaniel was like, they're all going to be great. They're all going to blah, blah, blah.
I think he was joking.
Well, and I did go back and look. Mostert and A-Chain 1 year combined for 1,800 yards. So 2 can be, I mean, it can be the same thing. So just, I do, like I said, Chargers to the Super Bowl. I do believe in them. So I think this is a good pick. Honestly, he's probably better up further, but he's at 14 for me. Who do you have at 14?
I'm sorry, just real quick because I saw that same press conference where McDaniel was like, "Is this a fantasy question you're asking?"
Yeah.
And then he was like, "Oh yeah, 1 week it'll be this guy, and the next week it'll be that guy." I think he was joking. I think he was just like he has a long history of just kind of messing with reporters, and I think when he realized this was a fantasy football question, he was just kind of messing with the guy. That was my read. I thought people were kind of like Adam Schefter breathlessly reported, word for word. "Oh, this is what Mike McDaniel just said." "Oh, can you believe it?" He was goofing around. I don't read too much into that. But for me, number 14 is Travis Etienne. He's one that I think he's just going to have a lot of good opportunities. I think he is an overpaid running back now. He is talented, but not as talented as he's made out to be, I would say. He's a good, not great running back. But the opportunities are going to abound. Not Harris. What a Freudian slip. Kamara Harris is what I was thinking in my head. Alvin Kamara.
Wow.
Excuse me. Alvin Kamara is going to take a back seat now. It's the Travis Etienne show. He seems to fit into the New Orleans culture well, and there might just be a little bit of vibes to having him this high. But I think he is going to be pretty good at minimum.
All right, so my number 13
Before you say it, I just want to say real quick, I feel like we might have a ding, ding, ding any moment because there's a guy neither of us have said that I was a little surprised I have him as high as I do. So I'm interested to see if we get a ding, ding right here.
Okay. Where am I at? Oh, we're not.
13.
13. Well, we might. Javonte Williams.
Ding, 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 ding. I called it. I knew it.
Yes. 1,100 yards, 9 TDs, 200 yards receiving, 2 TDs. Look, one of the shout out to Naaman, my son.
Young blood.
Look, I think they're going to be a great team. If as long as, and this is a big if. I mean, you've heard me say this before. Dak gets hurt every other year.
Yeah.
This is the other year.
Yeah.
But not taking that into account, this could be a prolific offense with a better than average defense. I'll say it. So, okay, I'll give you that.
Defense average. But we did say it. We said it last week that this could be the best offense in the NFC, maybe
Yeah.
even in the entire NFL, if George Pickens keeps his head on right. And so, yeah, Javonte is not flashy. He's not. He had a few explosive runs last year, sure, but I think at this point in his career, he's not the explosive guy he was as a rookie after all these injuries. But he is still a good player. People forgot he is good because he had those years coming off the. He had a really bad knee injury, and it took him a couple years to get back fully healthy. But he's productive. He knows how to be productive, and in a really good offense, that can lead to touchdowns. Kind of who I have in mind, and this is probably just because of the name similarity that I kind of am conflating these two in my head, but Jamal Williams. Remember when Jamal Williams had like 20 touchdowns for the Lions? He broke Barry Sanders' record for rushing touchdowns.
This could be it.
Such a good offense.
Yeah.
That's what I see with Javonte Williams this year, is that sort of potential to he'll just have opportunities to get in the end zone.
All right. I like that. Number 12 for me, Mr. Ashton Jeanty. 1,100 yards, 8 TDs, 350 yards receiving, and 3 receiving touchdowns. I like him. I'm not crazy about Jeanty like everybody else, but and I'm also worried about the Raiders' offense, but that's a whole other issue. But I think he's too good to be any lower.
Yeah. For me, it is Breece Hall. Cracking the top 12. We saw him have some really good games last year, and I know there's always these concerns of is Braylon Allen or Isaiah Davis going to cut into his workload, and they maybe have a little bit at times, but Breece Hall is still such a good player, and you and I kind of talked about this last week. It feels, for whatever reason, it feels like this could be a not good year for the Jets, but it could be a productive year for the Jets on offense anyways. So I like Breece Hall as a player. I think he's really, really talented, and I think the pieces are kind of in place for him to have a good year.
He's just a little smidge higher. 11, I have Mr. Chuba Hubbard. We've already talked about. Yeah, I mean, I know I'm probably crazy on this one too.
Yeah, that's a bit high, brother.
1,200 yards and 9 TDs and 300 yards receiving, 3 receiving touchdowns. Yep, here's your guy who's going to be the top scorer on the Panthers. I said it. I could be wrong, but hey, it's there. It's on the web.
And I've always been like the Chuba guy of our podcast. I've always been but I can't get on board with a number 11. That's wild, man.
No, hey, give me a break. Who do you
Versus
have?
Who I have number 11 is
Who do you
have? Derrick Henry himself. The real deal. I will never, until he proves otherwise, he's just never going to be outside my top 12 ever again. It's been a few years since I've tried to project his downfall. Just not doing it.
I totally understand.
He's a freak of nature. He is just like I think Aaron Donald can come back and be just about as good as he was when he left. Like he's just a freak of nature. The rules of aging do not apply to this human being.
Black don't crack. All right, number 10, James Cook. 1,200 yards, 10 TDs, 300 yards receiving, and 3 receiving touchdowns. I, is this the year for the Bills? I mean, I feel like it has to be.
Yeah, you said
mean,
that last week.
I think we've said that every year with Josh Allen. This is the year. This is it's got to do. It's got. Man, he's a great quarterback. They got DJ Moore. It's a great team. James Cook has to be up here, right?
James Cook is, yeah, I'm higher on. I haven't talked about James Cook yet, and there's a reason for that. It's not because he's not in my top 40. I'll tell you that.
Yeah. So who do you have it?
Well, it's, just real quick on the Bills, and I'll talk more about Cook later. But I mean, they knock on the door every year, right? Like, I mean, last year was the first year where you can actually blame Josh Allen for their loss in the playoffs because he had a couple really dumb plays. But like year before, the refs handed that game to Kansas City. Absolutely handed it to them. You can't fault Josh Allen and the Bills for not beating the refs when they're saying that Dalton Kincaid is short when he's clearly over the line. And there were 3 or 4 instances of that in that game. Anyways, I have at number 10, Chase Brown.
Shut your mouth.
I wish the Bengals would upgrade at running back. I'd be so much more excited if they did. They do seem to be changing their offensive scheme this year, finally. This is my other issue with the Bengals always, is I don't think Zach Taylor is actually a good coach. And he's been running this spread to pass offense for several years now, or his entire time there. That's been really stale. And to the defense of Chase Brown, who I'm not a big fan of, he has not been given great opportunities because of this scheme. I think that they're theoretically supposed to be moving to more under center play action offense this year, which I think is good for both the run game and pass game. And for Chase Brown, I think it will give him easier runs than what he's had in the past. So this is probably the highest I've ever had Chase Brown. And I don't love it, but I mean he's been productive enough over the years. Mix that with the new look to the offense, which, by the way, in training camp, it's been a disaster. They've been doing this; it hasn't gone well, but I think that's okay. I think they can get it together. So yeah, Chase Brown, number 10.
Okay, number 9, we've already talked about him. Breece Hall. 1,100 yards, 7 TDs, 500 yards receiving, and 3 touchdowns. I mean, we pretty much said everything had to be said about him. You got anything else, Fuller?
Not on Breece. No. I think we I hate to say we know what he is because I think so many people do still sleep on Breece Hall, and just don't realize how good of a running back he is. But it speaks for he's not the one that you're going to get super excited about, but he's very, very good.
Yeah. So who do you have?
At number 9, I have the newly paid Jonathan Taylor, who another one. Maybe there was a time where he was exciting. I think that time has passed. He's getting a little bit older. He's one where maybe I would have him higher if not for his age. But they gave him a big contract. He's still pretty much alone in that backfield. He's going to continue to be a bell cow. There are not many of those in the NFL anymore. So that's who I've got. I mean, what more is there to say? The dude has been productive for a long time. He's got a good offensive line. It's just a concern about his age for me. This is the only reason he's not even higher than 9.
All right, you're going to blow your mind here. Number 8, Mr. Bayshell Tootin. 1,100 yards rushing, 9 TDs, 400 yards receiving, 5 TDs receiving.
Oh, my God.
This is where I'm standing at. I put my flag right here.
So let me just ask you, hang on, for our listeners, for our league mates, I want them to hear this because you kept pushing me on some of my quarterback takes, so I'm going to push you here. Are you drafting him as the 8th best running back? 7 running backs are off the board. Next up for you is Bayshell Tootin?
Yeah, I'll take him.
Holy
in a heartbeat.
Cow.
I'll take him.
Cow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, props to you for boldness. I think that is way bolder than anything I've ever said on this show.
So I guess what I'm saying, what you're hearing is I'll be the first person to draft him.
I guess so, because I don't think anyone's taking that high. Let's see the highest he's ranked anywhere. 17. The highest he's ranked anywhere else is 17.
You heard it here first, guys. Foley, who do you have at number 8?
This is where I have James Cook, who is another one who's kind of just a little bit slept on his entire career because people have always said, well, he's not quite as good as his brother, and that's true. But he's closer to Dalvin than people ever thought. At this point, he's had more longevity than Dalvin, I think. So yeah, I mean, he got a big contract last year and lived up to it. I think he was a top 5 running back last year. It's hard for me to bring him any lower than 8, given that. I mean, he's going to be. He's got Joe Brady still, who I don't love, but he's the head coach now, still going to be running the offense. And yeah, I think Cook has plenty of touchdown opportunities this year, as well as he'll get some catches.
All right, my number 7. You had him a little bit lower. David Montgomery. Yeah, 1,000 yards. Here, look, here's going to be the kicker. 1,000 yards rushing, which I think is totally possible. 8 TDs, 700 yards receiving, and 5 TDs receiving, which is why I have him further up than you do.
So for our league mates in like rounds 3 and 4, I guess Uriah is going to take David Montgomery and Bashal Tutin. Oh my goodness!
Let me tell you something. I would love to have those two as 2 of my running backs. Love it.
Goodness, Montgomery, the highest he's ranked anywhere is 16. So yeah, 16 and 17 are the highest they're ranked anywhere else.
And I'm not finished, Foley. I'm not finished.
Oh my God. I'm scared.
So, number 7, my friend, you.
Saquon Barkley, who had obviously a major down year last year, but he is still Saquon Barkley. It is still a good situation, good-ish situation, I would say. So, yeah, I mean, it's another one that, like, it's Saquon Barkley. What more do we need to talk about? He had one of the best running back seasons of all time 2 years ago, so it's not like one down year is going to move him out of the top 5 or 10 for me, top 10. He's not. I think the only interesting thing about Saquon, and I'm assuming you have him higher. I'm sure you do. But I think what's interesting about Saquon, as opposed to some other running backs, is he is obviously any running back, to get the best out of them, you put them in a good situation. But there are some running backs that do better in a bad situation. And Saquon is not one of those. Saquon, you kind of do need him to have a good situation to really get a good version of him. And Philly's a good situation, but it's not as good as it was a couple of years ago when they had Jason Kelce and some other players as well. So I'm not down on Saquon when I put him at 7, but there's a reason there's 6 guys higher for me.
All right, number 6, Mr. Chase Brown. 1,100 yards rushing, 6 TDs, 450 yards receiving, and 4 TDs. Once again, I like the Bengals, and I'm not a Bengals fan. I think it's hard to overlook the big 3, and I did it last year. Will not do it again this year, but I like them. So, number 6.
Yeah, so you're not doing the triple stack again?
I will not do the triple stacking.
Okay.
All right, number 6 for you.
Number 6 for me, this is an awkward one because it's like, this feels high for him, and maybe he'll get moved down before we get to the season. But Kyren Williams, he's split with Blake Corum so much. Part of this is I just wonder if, just like last year, we saw Sean McVay move to a ton of 3 tight end sets. I wonder if this year, to stay one step ahead, he has a lot of two back sets. And I think there's a lot of interesting things he can do with it. But more than anything, as much as I love Blake Corum, Kyren Williams has been, and I've been down on him in years past, I can't argue with the production. At a certain point, when you're so consistent with the number of carries and targets you get, I think it's just got to continue. Or it doesn't have to continue at the same level, but it gives you such a high floor if you've seen someone so consistently get carries and targets the way that Kyren has, and he gets both. So 6 is where I have him.
All right, number 5, Jonathan Taylor.
Okay.
1,300 yards rushing, 15 TDs, 300 yards receiving, 1 receiving touchdown. I like him. I think he's a can't miss top 10 running back no matter what happens.
He's
So,
a known commodity. Yeah. And I mean, all of these guys are. I feel like you're going to have one wild card that I haven't caught on to yet, but for me, it is, and this is the last one that it feels a little icky for me to have him as high as I do, but it is Ashton Genty, who I am mainly. This is one that I'm projecting a big step forward because of the situation that he's
yeah.
in, namely having Kubiak come in as his head coach and as his play caller. We saw what Kubiak did in a few different spots at this point, right? Like people forget. I said this last year, but people forget a couple of years ago when the Saints, the last year with Dennis Allen, for the first 4 weeks of the year, it was the best offense in the NFL, and a lot of that was the running game driving it. Kubiak was the offensive coordinator for that time. Then everyone got hurt. Everyone got hurt, and it all fell apart. But then he goes to Seattle and just completely reinvents that offense. It looks so good. Now he's coming to Vegas. I think he's going to scheme up a lot of good looks for Ashton Genty. And I also think the offensive line is going to be better. If only because now it won't be Pete Carroll's son coaching the offensive line. There are some players on there like Jackson Powers Johnson that I've always believed are very, very talented and haven't quite lived up to it. I think this is a year where they finally can live up to it. So as terrible as Genty's situation was last year, he did still have some good games, and now I think he's in a much better situation. So this is where he might live more up to his pedigree.
All right. Number 4 for me will be Mr. Saquon Barkley. 1,200 yards, 10 touchdowns, 250 yards receiving, 2 receiving touchdowns. I will preface this by saying he is 29.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm just so relieved to realize that you don't have anything. Wait, no. Wait, that was your number 4, right?
Yeah.
It's okay, all. It's all. Anything totally crazy anymore.
Crazy. I've got my crazy out. So
he's getting back on the rails of the crazy train now. Thank goodness. So my number 4 is Devon Achane.
Okay.
And I'll tell you what, like I totally hear you. I've been super down on the Miami team as well. They have the second hardest schedule in the NFL by a pretty wide margin. Like the difference between number 2 and number 3 is pretty big. And I'm sure, like, I think you mentioned last week you're worried that they're just going to stack the box, which I understand. I have that worry too. Where I am more excited about Achane is what he can do in the receiving game. Now that Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle are both gone, who's going to take those targets? Everyone's talking about, is it my guy Malik Washington? Is it one of the rookies? Is it this? Is it that? I think it's Devon Achane. If we think about what Christian McCaffrey did last year when all the 49ers receivers were hurt, and McCaffrey was basically just a wide receiver out there, getting crazy amounts of targets. I think that's what Achane is this year for Miami. And so, as he's going to rack up, especially in PPR.
Okay. Number 3, I think our 1 through 3 are going to be the same. Christian McCaffrey.
Ding, ding, ding.
1,100 yards, 8 TDs, 700 yards receiving, 6 TDs. West Jones, shout out James. West Coast, Mac Jones, checking down to Christian McCaffrey. Like Foley just said, the wide receivers, where are they at? We don't know. I don't see Mike Evans and Debo just killing it this year. I could be wrong. So Christian McCaffrey at 3.
Yeah, same here. Christian McCaffrey at 3. I mean, the great white hope is he's so good. Now, you talk about off years and injuries. Yeah. Every other year he gets hurt. This is the other year for Christian McCaffrey. That's the bad news. But the good news is I'm not that superstitious. So I don't really have like I think Christian McCaffrey's injuries are a little bit different from Joe Burrow's, where yes, he
Yeah.
has an extensive history, but it doesn't quite lead to this like, oh, I think he's just super brittle. I've never quite believed that about Christian McCaffrey. One more major injury and I'm probably out on him, but for now, I'm not factoring in injuries. I think he's good to go, and yeah, he's. I mean, especially with George Kittle out like that, or is George Kittle going to be the same
Yeah.
version of himself coming off the Achilles? I think, and Ricky Pearsall now, not no longer being shot, just might as well be.
Living that white boy Ricky lifestyle.
White boy Ricky, I'm telling you. Yeah, I think as long as McCaffrey stays away from the substation,
I was just
he,
to
he
say
can be
that.
really good. Yeah,
All right, number two.
this is where the suspense kicks in. We'll see.
Bijan.
Nope.
I got Bijan. No, look, this is stout. Bijan, 1,200 yards receiving, 8 touchdowns, 800 yards receiving, 5 touchdowns. Um, I think Tua is going to be good for Bijan. I know you. Look, I know you don't care for Tua, but I think Tua is going to be good for Bijan and the Falcons. That's where I'm coming from on that one. So,
I have Jameer Gibbs at number 2.
well, okay, well, go ahead and talk to me about Bijan.
Yeah, I'll talk to you. So, Bijan Robinson is my number one. I think he is the best. I'm just going to talk about them both at the same time here, honestly, because
Okay, we can do that. Yeah.
yeah. Look, everyone. This is the big debate. If you've got in a regular league, non-superflex league, who do you take at the 101? Is it Bijan Robinson or is it Jameer Gibbs? I think you're fine either way. These are both fantastic options, and you can feel really good about either. I've thought a lot about this, and my metrics, the pure grades that I have, give the edge to Bijan. But in addition to that, I think what's really the tiebreaker for me is I think when you think about their two backups, Bijan Robinson's backup, Brian Robinson, and Jameer Gibbs' backup, Isaiah Pacheco, who do I believe is going to steal more carries? I think Pacheco
Neither.
gets more. Well, but I think Pacheco gets more carries than Brian Robinson does. Is my expectation, and so that's why I give the nod to Bijan. In addition to the fact that I have believed pretty much since he's entered the NFL draft, I have believed Bijan Robinson is the best running back in the NFL. I am a huge Bijan fan and have never hidden that. I remember fondly a day where I was in the throes of poisoning. The poison was just starting to hit me. The room was beginning to spin. It was my turn to pick, and I realized that I could not. This was his rookie year. I realized that I could not get to the draft board. And so I said, give me Bijan, and I tried to make it to the bathroom.
Look, this is the great chip scandal of that year. We're not going to go into it. Maybe look, enough requests, and we will go into the whole story. But it's probably the funniest thing besides Gronkowski moment. Got to be in our league, hands down. Look, the only reason I gave Jamar the nudge, the nod a little bit, would be for the more touchdowns and the more yards I think that they will have. I have a little bit more confidence in the Lions offense over Atlanta, and a lot of that is going to be with Tua. He's still a big question mark. Like I said, I watched him throw it in training camp, and I was like, now that looks good. Now saying this, if Penix comes back in the picture, oh my lord, yeah, Bijan to the moon because that's all they have. Keep that in mind. Saying that.
Like I said, you can't go wrong. I always expect Gibbs to have to share, even though he just got this big contract. I still think he's going to have to share the backfield more than people realize. Still a phenomenal number 2. It is no slight on him at all to have him as RB2 in this class. Reasonable people can disagree on which order to place these, but as long as we do agree that these are the 2 best running backs in the NFL and best for fantasy.
Absolutely. And before we get off of here, I just want to say once again, do your own list. Take what we give you as information I mean, if you want to go with it, feel free. Foley thinks some of my picks are crazy. I think some of his picks aren't really not that crazy this show. Quarterback show, whole nother story.
Yeah.
This show was pretty tame.
Yeah.
But once again, when it comes to, like we said, like 30 to 15, be watching your preseason. Be watching your depth charts. If you watch Hard Knocks and you see Price just blow up for a big run and he blows up in blah, 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 and it's training camp and it's Hard Knocks, don't fall for the hype. It could be true, but out of all the years that Hard Knocks and preseason has happened, that hadn't happened yet. So.
Yeah, that dang Hard Knocks. I stay away from it. It's just
it's entertainment. It's
entertainment, yeah, but it's a propaganda machine for whatever team they're doing. Remember when it was Aaron Rodgers and the Jets?
Exactly.
How'd
that turn out?
Not well. Yeah, and piggybacking on what Uriah said, to our league mates in particular, but anyone else who's listening and wants to just send it to us, drop it in the comments on YouTube or whatever else. Give us your rankings. Don't just say your rankings are wrong. Tell us what you think so we can compare and see who actually had better rankings at the end of the year.
Be a man.
That's right. Or a woman. Shout out to any female listeners we have.
Shout out Jaquita. All right, that's all we got for today. Foley, you good?
We're good. I figure next week we'll do wide receivers and tight ends, huh?
Sounds great to me.
Stay tuned.
See you guys later. We out.